Good afternoon, everyone. I am joined by a very lively group here with Frank and Mike. We should have been recording 10 minutes beforehand, but we're on the eve of Notre Dame's first football game with the Power 5 school when they take on North Carolina State in Raleigh tomorrow, September the 9th at noon. Um, how's your week been so far, guys? Frank, we haven't seen you in a while because you ventured out to witness history in South Bend versus Tennessee State last week. Real quick, how was it?
It was good. The game was anticlimactic. I mean, I have feelings about that, but
How was the
that
drive?
game's in the past. It's done. The drive was fun.
Didn't hit
I, I,
anything.
no, and actually for Labor Day weekend, traffic wasn't bad. There weren't a lot of police.
Did you drive through
And
State College?
yes, I did. And there was no construction on 80 in PA. Smooth trip.
Well, we welcome you here. Where are we watching this game tomorrow, gentlemen, by the way, since none of us are in attendance?
I'm
I'm
guessing over here, but I gotta bounce.
I'm watching it at my house.
You're bouncing afterwards, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. With that said, we're going to take a look at the score prediction here. We're also going to make some predictions against the spread. But we did actually have a comment from one of our viewers, a question that I wanted to bring up very quickly here. And basically, the question was, obviously Notre Dame would be 2-0 even with Brian Kelly at the helm this year. What would it look like? Compare what 2-0 with Brian Kelly playing Navy and Tennessee State would look like compared to this year's squad. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, I don't. I think that would be hard to compare. I mean, I'm not.
What's your prediction? Just what do you think they would do with Brian Kelly at the helm versus Navy and Tennessee State?
I think it would be the same, but I don't think. I don't think we would be talking about how sharp and crisp the execution's been through two games. That's the one thing that's impressed me with Notre Dame, regardless of the competition. Um, and I want to see if that continues tomorrow. But uh, Brian Kelly's gone. He's got his own problems. It's I'm not digging that body up.
He's got the same problems. Let's be real. But Mike, what do you think if BK was coach this year?
Scores probably
And
would
we're
have
not
been.
bringing this up. This is someone else that brought this up, by the way, to go back to what you just said, Frank, about not digging this up. Someone else brought it up. So, Mike,
No,
what do you think ND would be with those first two games under Brian Kelly?
The scores would have been the same relatively, but they would have just out athleted both teams. It would have been junk. Sam Hartman would probably have like 100 pass attempts by now and six interceptions, and we would have like a combined 82 yards rushing
Yeah, I
and
agree.
12 sacks, and no,
It'd be
it's
much more
not the
soft.
same.
It's not. But Frank, you did bring up a good point. They have been very sharp, despite the competition. They have been very sharp, sharper than we're used to. And what just adds, to it, and I think we touched on this, Mike, is just watching LSU be Notre Dame from the last,
They're
12 years with Brian
they've
Kelly. They
turned
are
into
Notre
Notre
Dame.
Dame. They're Notre Dame.
And you're watching the quarterback just again. Brian never got him going upwards. Their best day on
So
campus was their first day.
so let me ask you a question because this occurred to me watching the LSU game the other night. It, and I don't know why it popped into my head, but I'm watching that game. Does Jaden Daniels just remind you of Everett Golson circa
Yeah,
2014?
yeah.
Just yeah.
I mean, and it's the same kind of offense. I just it just occurred to me, and I was like, "Holy cow! I got to be wrong," but I just can't shake that feeling.
Dude, the first
And
series, you're at the 1 yard line and you have 4 plays out of shotgun in their passes. I mean, what? Just he couldn't even go under center, which really begs the question: was he in charge of Tommy Reese? Because that looked like Tommy Reese was calling plays too. Um,
well, but I think we had that same debate when Tommy became the OC at Notre Dame in 2019. Was did he really have the keys to the offense?
Right.
Um, the one thing I remarked to Dad last week, the one thing you haven't seen through 2 games this year with Notre Dame is the outside screen game with the bubble screens and the smoke screens and all that, which to me, I can't recall us having a lot of success with them. That's been eliminated with this. It's a lot more checkdowns to the running backs, and it's the offense seems to be a lot cleaner because they've taken away the stuff that didn't work that we kept trying to force the last couple years. So getting back to Mike's point, you would have seen that with had Kelly been the coach there, is forcing stuff that it's not in our wheelhouse. It's not what Notre Dame does well.
So we get NC State tomorrow. We've played them 3 times. We're 1-2. Of course, one of those losses is squarely on Kelly. I mean, I've never seen a bigger douchebag game plan than the 2016 in a hurricane.
That was special.
What an asshole. It's just, what an asshole. There's no other way of putting it, and I apologize for cursing, but what an asshole. Anyway, NC State, they're just, I think they're 1-0. I know they beat UConn. I think that's their only game there. It is.
They did. I listened to that game Thursday night.
So they're 1-0, and they're 7.5-point dogs at their home versus the Irish tomorrow for the noon start. So give me a prediction, and are the Irish covering that spread? Go ahead, Frank, real quick.
Yeah, I think the Irish do cover. I can see Notre Dame winning this game like 27-17, or 30-22, something like that. I didn't do a ton of research on NC State. They got a lot of guys on the team that you're going to see like on NFL rosters in a couple years. I mean, the big thing tomorrow is Notre Dame has a more talented roster. If Notre Dame comes out, plays their game, plays clean football like they have the last 2 weeks, it's going to be a stiffer test, but Notre Dame wins this game. NC State only challenges in this game if Notre Dame gives them help. And
what do you think?
I mean, what's their quarterback? We played him at Virginia.
Brendan Armstrong.
Kid from Virginia.
Yeah.
He was out in 21 when we played him. He got hurt, which changed the whole complexion of that
Yeah,
game.
we knocked him out.
No. He didn't suit up.
He had a rib injury the week before, and Bronco was very cloak and dagger about his availability for the game.
Anywho.
Yeah, he didn't play.
He ain't going to beat us with his arm. So
No, you need to spot.
keep him in the pocket. The difference here is the matchup's going to be Notre Dame's offensive line against their D-line, which is very talented. And what's their linebacker's name?
Peyton Wilson.
Yeah, he's a stud. And they have 2 corners, which can match up with our guys. So it's going to be this is Notre Dame's offensive line's first test. I think they're going to pass with flying colors and wear them down. And I think this game ends 38-14.
Mike, aren't you at all concerned about Notre Dame's defensive ends? Because I know you mentioned that as a complaint, potentially, from the first 2 opponents.
This will be a good test.
Yeah, honestly, because that kid can't scoot. The Armstrong.
Yeah.
He'll burn you if you're out of position with his legs.
He did the Connecticut, and they had no answer.
Connecticut.
Dude, they also...
I know, but we have a propensity going on 4 and 5 years now. We lose outside contain. I mean, hell, 2 years ago, Jack Plummer hurt us in the Purdue game, breaking contain. He had 45 yards rushing. I think that's the most he had in his 8 years in college, or however long he's been playing now. But you need to spy him tomorrow too. And who are we spying him with? Maris Leofau.
He's been solid.
He's a good athlete, but that matchup concerns me. But I think the smart money is you spy him and you keep him in the pocket and make him throw from the pocket. Don't let him get outside.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical about how well Notre Dame does that, and that concerns me.
So to review here, against the spread, Mike and I are 2-0. Frank, you never gave us a prediction last week, so you're still 1-0 with Notre Dame against the spread. You both are predicting the Irish to cover. I also am going to pick the Irish to cover. I think they're going to win like 31-17, somewhere in there. But I think it's going to be like one of those games where it doesn't even feel that close. You know, they might get a touchdown late or something, and hopefully we see like an 8-minute just pounding drive in the second half for Notre Dame, which would be really cool. But so we're all homers. We're all picking the Irish to cover again, but we're all undefeated, and that's all that matters right now. Frank, you want to say something?
Yeah, the only thing is I'm not as confident in you guys in the margin of victory tomorrow. And going back to one thing Mike alluded to a couple minutes ago, Notre Dame's offensive front is I one thing I'm interested to see is how much movement NC State's defensive front it gives Notre Dame. The confused blocking schemes, to hide how many people they're bringing. Um, this is going to be a challenge for Notre Dame offensive line, not physically, but working as a unit and being able to recognize pressure, being able to recognize movement pre-snap, and being able to lock up on people. And that's I just think NC State's going to do that. It's one of the hallmarks of the 3-3-5 is you vary your looks, and even though they got talent on defense, you don't want to go head up on Notre Dame. So we're going to take gaps, we're going to move, and we're going to try to disguise pressure. I think there's nothing going on here he hasn't seen, but I do want to see how Notre Dame's offensive line responds to that. To Mike's point, that's definitely going to be a telltale sign. But I think it's going to give us problems. I don't think it's going to be the cakewalk that everybody thinks it is. I think this game's going to be tight.
I don't think anyone's predicting it to be a cakewalk except for Mike. But other than that, I think obviously we're playing our first Power 5 opponent and it's on the road, but I think they'll be ready to go. Hey, I got a question, and maybe you guys know the answer to this. Do NC State people hate Notre Dame? And the reason why I ask, I don't know if any of you saw, there was an article for the News and Observer in Raleigh, and the title is "The ACC has a Big Notre Dame Problem, and It's Not the 28-Game Losing Streak." And I'm not making this up. The author's name is Luke DeCock, and all he does is trash Notre Dame on how they're just trying to eat their cake, and they don't care about the ACC, and leaning on him for the 2020 season, and it's literally just a hate-filled. The dude he's DeCock. What do you expect? This guy's a loser, and I just wanted to see what you guys thought about this Bush League article, if you happen to have read it.
I didn't read the article, but I've heard the sentiment, and I think it's been amplified a lot now with all the movement going on in the ACC. And I think it's the same argument is being put forth now with Notre Dame's relationship with the ACC as it was several years ago when Notre Dame was in the Big East. And I think it was Jim Boeheim, among others, who called out Notre Dame for not jumping in the Big East with both feet as being instrumental in the demise of the Big East. I see his point, but I don't necessarily agree with it, and I don't think it applies here with the ACC, because the reality is, in my opinion, Florida State's leaving, and Clemson is too, and it's just going to be a question of the money and the timing, but they're gone. So
the only question you need to ask this guy, assuming whatever school he roots for, let's just
Mr. DeCock.
Let's assume he's an NC State fan. Ask him how many sellouts he's going to have this year at Carter Finley.
No,
it's one. It's one.
But look, Notre Dame's relationship with the ACC has been a marriage of convenience for both the conference and Notre Dame. And there's just this idea that's prevalent out there that Notre Dame should somehow be made to join a conference. And we've heard this before, and we hear it when it comes to the playoff talk. Look, Notre Dame's going to be steadfast, right, wrong, or indifferent. They're going to ride as an independent in football for as long as they can, and they need a landing spot for their other sports. And the ACC's a good spot for it. The ACC's been good to Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's been good to the ACC. But the cracks in the foundation of the ACC right now are not because of Notre Dame standing as a member in the ACC.
No, it's the TV deal they signed. That is what's killed them. That is the death
No,
to
your
the ACC.
That and the
your
conference sucks in football.
Dude, their TV deal it's kill. I mean, they're locked into like 2036. It's
and the ironic thing about this is that the team that has gotten the most vocal about leaving the conference, Florida State, is the one that's now seems to be pointing in an upward direction here the last 2 years. And I just, they're leaving. They've had financial problems. It's been written about and documented going back to when Jimbo Fisher was there, and it was allegedly a reason why he left and went to Texas A&M.
bro. They
And
were so broke. Players were stealing everything, stealing stealing crabs.
so it's, and the other piece of this, if the ACC folds, what happens to the other schools?
Right.
Florida State and Clemson go. Cal and Stanford aren't moving the needle for you as a conference in terms of your profile. And let's be honest, and it's no disrespect to North Carolina State, but it's not like they got too many options. It's not like the Big Ten's going to roll the carpet out for them. It's not a big TV market. They're in a tough spot. So I understand the hostility, but this isn't Notre Dame. This is the world we live in.
No, I agree.
So, if you want to be pissed at somebody, be pissed at TV contracts and be pissed at ADs who just can't, they just sell out to anybody who'll give them a buck.
Immediately.
Yeah, and that's where we are. It's got nothing to do. Notre Dame could join the ACC tomorrow, and it's going to prolong the inevitable.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah.
Well,
Do you have any prediction tomorrow outside of the Notre Dame NC State game?
I'll tell you what. There's some interesting games tomorrow, and if you're talking about locks of the week,
You gotta make one. You gotta pick one against.
I know, and there's some easy ones. Like you could sit there and say, UNLV, Michigan. There's some mismatches. I think Duke's playing Lafayette. I'll tell you the game that I really, really feel good about. I think Holy Cross
Yeah.
at least covers BC.
What's the spread?
I don't know, to be honest with you. But I'm just looking at a couple basic things. Holy Cross is showing up in Alumni Stadium with the better quarterback.
The better team, the better coach, and
Yeah.
BC just took an L at home to Northern Illinois.
So if Holy Cross doesn't win outright, I would feel very confident that they cover. That's that game could be a job interview for a certain coach from Holy Cross.
It is. Yeah, he's gonna get it. And then, I'm gonna stick with Bama to cover at 7 over Texas at home at night in Tuscaloosa. I really don't think Shark's a good coach. They are loaded with talent. They still find ways to lose games.
They've been loaded with talent.
Yeah, right.
They were loaded with talent when Herman was there, and they were loaded with talent when Charlie Strong was there. It's I'm not sold on Texas either. They're a good team. Texas will probably win 10 games this year, but I don't know if they're at the point where they're going to go into Alabama and beat them. And if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it?
Yeah,
Because this isn't vintage Alabama either. I mean, They don't have a 5-star quarterback for the first time in 6 or 7 years. Bama's kind of doing it old school, but it's still Alabama, and yeah, Nick Saban and his staff, it's a better coaching staff than Texas has. That's my humble opinion.
So with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of YoND.